Hello, Holger.
Hello, Carsten.
Very nice to have you again at the Data Festival this year.
Thank you.
So how long did you join the festival?
I think from the very beginning when we actually started, 5 years ago.
Yes, 4 years ago. And you were one of the people of the first hour.
Yes.
How do you think that learning from each other and networking is so important in our industry?
A couple of things. Let's start with nobody has the bandwidth to work on all the different aspects of the problems. So everybody has a niche component. The one is better in looking in data, another one is better in looking in databases, another one is looking in algorithms. But by the end of the day, we are all talking the same language. We all talk about the same problems. We talk about platforms, we talk about cloud, we talk about algorithms, we talk about competition, we talk about how to measure impact. So we all have the same questions, but we approach the problem from different angles. And none of us had ever found the golden bullet. It is more an incremental and painful journey, learning step by step how to do it in the best way and defining best practice. And this is why it's so important that we come together and talk about it. What actually is best practice? So let's sort it out. What worked, what didn't work, and what does in combination work, and what's the potential being outlined there. And quite often the ideas are not coming by yourself being logged into your company. The ideas are coming by having dinner in the evening with other companies and talking about their problems and identifying the opportunities. And then it's the moment when the magic happens. That's the moment when you become creative. That's the moment when you go to the next level. And what I always do when I leave a conference is I'm sitting down and I make notes. I'm just reflecting on what I heard, what I learned, and try to bring this together. And try to bring this to a conclusion and take up this conclusion and take an action in the company and say, this is what I take away from the conference. What can I do out of it? What does it mean to us? And I think this is also another aspect of leadership by the end of the day. Don't just join it, take it, drive the action, do something out of it. And this is what we always embrace the people to stand up by the end of the day. Because people joining this kind of festivals should not just listen in and hear what others are doing. They should also step up and be faithful enough to give it a try in practice and to take action if they can.
Absolutely. So that's actually how we met, if you remember. It was a dinner at a conference. And so great that you joined, for sure. Talking a little bit about you. So what's your role? What are you doing? What are your current challenges?
At the moment, I'm heading up the Advanced Analytics department in Adidas. Maybe a little bit of history. When I joined the company 7 years ago, we didn't do in any sense Advanced Analytics. There was BI as it was running in all the different corporates, but nothing beyond the level what I would call Advanced Analytics. Back in the days, we said, if you really want to do Advanced Analytics, the first thing you have to start with is you have to collect the data. And they told us the data is available. But as soon as we looked into the data, we recognized nothing is available. So there's a misperception. And we started building up the first data lake for the company. And the first big data incubator from 14 to 16. In 16, we said platform is done, it's over. Incubation is accomplished. Now it's all about the use cases. So let's go into an innovation mode, and we founded the data science lab, where we created, as many people back in the days, the first use cases. And we were lucky as we decided from the very beginning, let's not go for many, let's go for few that really matter for our industry. And we picked 10 use cases, which we drove with all the resources we had. 5 of them are in production today, which I would call a big success. Because 50% from innovation to production is a very high number. After that, 2 years, they asked me to take the responsibility Adidas-wide, so not only the solutions we developed, but also the solutions we buy from the market, for the full P&L impact of Advanced Analytics. And I drove forward the portfolio discussion with the board, where is it to invest? What should we do and what should we not do? What to buy and what to develop? And I was lucky that by 2020, the strategy discussion 2025 just kicked off. And I got asked to join this discussion, the strategy cycle, and to define the data analytics strategy 2025 for the company, which moved me again into another role, to more being engaged with our executive board and the supervisory board and think about what is actually the potential and where one we're heading from. And our board just talked in March about what we are aiming to achieve. And this is more or less the result of the cycle.
Okay. You mentioned the P&L impact as one of the key objectives, maybe, and we talked about it also in a Data Festival presentation. But first question is, can you always measure it? So what's your experience there? Is there a good way to do that? And then the follow-up question would be, can you really attribute that to yourself? Because I would argue often you would embed it in a process and maybe you're just one part of a process improvement and then can you really claim it to yourself? So how's that working in Adidas?
So first and foremost, there are a couple of aspects there. First and foremost, every use case is different. Mm-hmm. And we are not calling them use cases, we're calling them products. And the idea is a product has a product owner who is accountable for the economic impact of the product. And the investment decisions are going with the return on investment calculation. But to be accountable, or to be accountable, you also have to be empowered to deliver by the end of the day. That means the product owns all the resources they need to deliver the product by the end of the day. So now you decide you go for a product. Let's take typical examples, demand forecasting. You want to predict what is the expected volume of a specific article in some time from now. Then what you do is first, you bring together the people it takes to develop this product. And this is starting from data engineering, is going over data science with the product owner, but also the business counterparts. So demand planning teams, planning the volume. It's maybe including teams from sourcing that are working together with the demand planning team. And all those people, they form one team. And that's key. And as soon as you establish these limited dependencies, or you get away from dependencies, you can ask, what do we actually expect? And by the end of the day, you have a specific level all the people in the company reached up to now when it comes to accuracy. This is the level you achieved, and that might be a number which is different by industry, but it's a typical number for your company. And now your expectation is, if I do a supported decision-making process, if I embed an AI to support the people with the decision-making, I would expect that accuracy is going up. That might mean that your access stock is going down. That might mean that you don't need 4 weeks of a pre-lead time, which might be reduced to 2 weeks. Whatever the measure is, whatever the KPI is, what matters to the industry, but this is what you align on. You align with your sponsors, this is how we measure impact. And this makes your KPI.
Okay.
And the KPI might be the access stock in this warehouse and those articles is going down by.
Okay, good. And the second part of the question? So basically, are there sometimes, or can you really measure it also if it's just part of a major improvement program, for example, or a bigger change?
Yeah, that's difficult. It's always the question, where is the impact coming from? You have many things in parallel.
Exactly.
Sometimes you need to believe. Okay. And there's always there's one concept we are following, and the concept is, at some point, perception becomes reality. When people start talking about something in a positive manner, then you know there is something. You might not be able to write down an explicit number, but you know there is something. So there's too much to ignore it. And this is at the moment when people are aware of the positive impact and start talking about it. And this is why perception is so important in this whole industry, in the business of data analytics. People need to trust your work you are doing, and people need to trust that it's for the good of the company and creating better impact. And if you have an impact to a business part, you can always argue that the top line might have developed, let's make up a number, by 10%. And I don't know how much of this 10% is coming from my solution. But now we can either go with very basic assumptions and align on a proportion that is coming from it. And this is quite often done in the e-com business. On e-com, they align. If this is the top line uplift which we see, then we expect, and this is the deal we make, that this proportion is coming from this work stream. Full stop. So we get out of this financial discussion being very detailed in where is it coming from, into we as a group have to be successful in driving this top line number as much as possible, because then my contribution is going up as well. But this is something you align upfront before you do the project.
Yeah, makes sense.
Or you do it the other way around and you say, I can finger point on this KPI that this is my impact. Either or, depending on the product.
Excellent, very good. So if you look at your career path, so you worked on the data, then you had, let's say, innovation as a key goal. Then you were operationalizing and scaling, if I understood you correctly. Yeah, so globalizing it in a way. And the last part of your career now was the strategizing in a way. Yeah? So would that be a recommendation for, let's say, junior data scientists that hear this or that are interested in getting into the space? Would you say that's something that makes a lot of sense and you would recommend it, or maybe you would recommend something else?
In the retrospective, this is the path that made most sense for me, but it is not necessarily the path that works best for everybody, as this depends on your interest. Actually, none of the roles I have been working in existed before I did the role. So I created all the roles over the time, and I was working on getting up the space and making the room for those roles, convincing people that it's required. But back in the days, we have been in a phase where nothing was available, and we were creating everything from scratch. So it was all about identifying the opportunity, standing up and speaking to take the opportunity, taking accountability and driving it forward. And if you would ask me about a recommendation for young professionals being on a data science stream, this is exactly the recommendation I would give them. Stand up, take accountability, and take the driver's seat. Don't wait for others to do the job for you. Nothing is holding you back from joining a conference, getting ideas, bringing ideas together, summarizing them to an action item, and presenting the action item to your shareholders or to your line managers. Doesn't matter. It's all about taking action. Don't be passive. And it's not about the specific positions you're taking. They're coming for self. I didn't care about my next role. I wasn't working on this is the next thing I wasn't doing. It was just coming around. The time was right and was just coming around. Now you can argue you have been lucky. You can also argue you actually made your opportunities. And it was coming around because you worked into this direction. And that's the recommendation I would give to people, because this will hold true at any point in time.
Excellent. Completely different topic. What technology or use case fascinated you the most in the, let's say, last year, or what did you see where you said, hey, I didn't know that this is possible, or this was really cool that we can do this now, or something that was fascinating?
Yeah, I think it's one, there's so many cool things happening, but there's one topic, and let's focus here, that was really outlining, and we are all aware of platform discussions. What is the right technology? Cloud on-premise discussions. What is the right approach? Data discussions, algorithmic discussions. I was never really in the game of saying this is the one solutions and the others don't work. They all work. It's the magic of how to combine them. But there's one thing happening at the moment, and this is how can I get out of this dependency of one of those source or raw problems and create a kind of an artificial layer, a layer in between that holds something that didn't exist before, that makes our life in future so much more easy that we don't need to go back to this sourcing level. And we did this in BI before. In BI, quite often you're not going on the raw data level, you create aggregation logic on top, and then you go by aggregation logic. It's the same principle. Rather than going always back to the source, you create a logic on top, and then you go for the next level. And this logic at the moment is what we call embeddings. It's embeddings which are mainly coming from images, but it can also come from text, social media, any kind of feedback, which you're not taking as a raw data input in any kind of algorithm, because this is a lot of workload, a lot of opportunity to do mistakes, but where we say, you know what, let's bring together some smart people and let's create embeddings. And those embeddings are distributed across, where everybody can work on some existing and well predefined logic. Now you can argue, maybe you did embedding in the wrong way, and we should go back. Fair. Maybe you need different embeddings. But the time is showing us, and experience is showing us, that creating a kind of a quality layer people can use has a tremendous scalable impact to the organization. And this is what I would foster at the moment, drive forward at the moment. Work on this kind of high quality enabling layers that scale the organization.
Interesting. And you build it?
Yes.
That existing?
Yes, it's a product.
Okay, cool. Excellent. So, super. Thanks so much for supporting the Data Festival, but also for your insights today. And looking forward to having you at the committee for a long time.
Me too. Thanks a lot.
Thanks to you.
Take care.